Week 3. I know week 2 was a little bit more about these technical skills, but we are going to be diving even more so into branding and how we work through that process for week 3. I wanted to give you a summary over the week and discuss a little bit about what we're going to be doing, as well as show you a concept that I use in developing and working with brands and brand identity. So just to get started this week, I want to go over this with everybody really quick. You're going to do some research. First of all, we're going to be doing research and figuring out our target audience. We have to know who we're speaking to. And so there are some tools in here that we've put together to kind of gear that up and be able to help you find your brand voice, including a questionnaire. Now, we don't always just do a questionnaire when working with brand, and many times it evolves into more of what is a workshop and working one-on-one with a client and talking about their needs. And that kind of encompasses the overall deal of brand strategy and what that is, how to get a brand from one place to the other, which then in turn informs the creative strategy, which would be the narrative that you put together to tell the story for the campaign or for the brand. But all that said, let's digress a little bit and go back to this. We're going to be using the guide to building a brand packet. And all of these materials are located within Blackboard right here. If you click on Understanding Your Brand, I actually have built all of these out into the assignment, so you can click on the article, Understanding Your Brand Audience, read through that, and then go ahead and click through to this guide right here. You're going to want to go ahead and complete steps 1 through 6 of this guide. And it's going to help you to understand what the brand voice is going to be for your campaign and who you're talking to. This was provided to us through an agency and good, useful material. And again, we're kind of always sharing material as creatives and marketers. So you're going to want to go ahead and look through that course material. Additionally, once you've established your brand voice, you're going to go ahead and move forward to the brainstorming assignment, and you're going to want to give five ideas, and this could be paragraph, sentence, bullet points, ideas about the campaign and how that might work in accordance with your brand voice. And you're going to see step-by-step directions in there and how to do it. I'm getting a lot of questions from everyone thrown my way, and in examples of the work that we're doing and such, and questions like, is this it? Are we there? Is this saying what it needs to say? And the problem is, many times as designers, we tend to make decisions based on formal aspects of design, right? So it's how it was executed. Is it pretty? And at the end of the day, pretty is fine, and most design does have some sort of aesthetic quality to it, right? But ultimately, it should have a conceptual foundation. And so I actually wanted to take a second to show you this. This is a concept that I was taught in grad school, in grad school for painting, but I've applied it to the branding work that I do and working with clients, and it's very effective. And so the idea is right at the top of this triangle, and if you have heard me talk about this, forgive me, but I want to reiterate the concept again. So at the top of this triangle, we have what is the concept. And the concept is paramount. It is the most important aspect of the endeavor that you're working through. And on the bottom, on the left there, we have execution, and then on the other side, of course, subject matter. Now, concept is the most important, but if we have strong execution, but the subject matter that we choose doesn't support that execution or is not actually purposeful, then the triangle falls over. And so really what you have, right, the concept is the climax of this endeavor. And, if execution is influenced by subject matter and then in turn governed by concept, and then ultimately broadcast by execution, it kind of becomes this triadic relationship. So, for instance, if you come and you say, I have a concept to connect with the people living in, I'll say Maine. I want to work with Maine as a state. It's beautiful, and I want to connect with it, and I want to connect with the outdoors environment of Maine. And so you come and say that's my concept. But then the subject matter that you choose is all pictures of Portland, Maine, in the downtown area, and it really doesn't show off anything about the outdoors. Then I would ask you, is your subject matter supportive of that concept, or is it in fact hurting the concept in broadcasting the brand? So you have to be critical in thinking about these. And so after working through the questionnaire and figuring out who your target audience is, you're going to need to put it through a filter like this and think about, if this is true, how should we be working with the content that we have? How should we be considering these target demographics, and where do we point them to? And ultimately, we need to point them to a concept that reiterates those key points and can speak to that buyer persona. So another example, right, inversely, could be that same idea, and you show the concept of the outdoors in Portland, Maine, and you're using correct imagery, right? The subject matter you've chosen is seaside and trees and these beautiful outdoor images. However, the way you've executed it has this urban-esque feel to it, right? It's grungy. It doesn't quite match the buyer persona and their idea of what would be the outdoors. That, in turn, also is a fail. And so we have to keep all three of these in mind. And I wanted to show you that just as an illustration of kind of part of the process that I go through in working with these brands. Now, let me see here. Give me a second, guys. I've got 3 screens working, and so it's not always easy. Additionally to that, I've pulled up some awesome campaigns that were really successful. You're going to want to take a look at this. This is Patagonia's campaign. They really targeted their audience, right? And this idea of their audience being connected to the environment, being caring, concerned about one another. And the whole thing was, wait, don't buy this jacket. Don't waste money on this jacket. Invest in the planet, or, think about the planet in a different sense besides being a consumer. And so they almost seemingly attacked themselves, right? But the interesting thing is, if you tell people not to do something based upon the idea of their target audience and being able to connect with those people and say, don't buy this jacket based upon helping the environment, it almost inversely tells them, hey, we want to support this brand who believes in the same message that we do. So maybe you don't buy the jacket, but maybe you go out and buy a different piece of clothing they offer, or maybe you're even more supportive of the brand. At the end of the day, though, it creates more interest and a better return on investment. And you can actually see that here in this other article that I would like you to read, right? This is why brands, or why the customer should care about your brand, right? And so this is really great, right? Why you do what you do turns to what the customer cares about. So the customer cares about the positioning and how you talk about the brand, and then in turn that turns around in a similar fashion to the triangle that we talked about, right? It comes back to them caring about why you do what you do. And this ultimately provides a framework for the importance of the brand. And one thing I additionally want to share too, and I've said this, and this is kind of a famous quote. I've even heard Paul Rand talk about this idea that a brand being a promise, right? And so the promise is this, right? That what you do and in action and what you say about who you are, they line up, right? So if they don't line up, there's a disconnect there for the customer. And so, for instance, right, if you have this awesome place to visit, right, and people are like, man, I really want to visit, I don't know, choose anywhere, some town in Delaware. It just seems so amazing. But the branding that's put forth by this town positions it as kind of a sleaze dump, it's not going to have the same impact. And this is tougher as far as dealing with actual locations and states, but we can think about it even in the terms of business, right? If we're dealing with the business, if the services you provide and the product you provide don't align with the messaging that you're putting out, there's going to be a disconnect, and what ultimately results is a lack of trust from your consumer. So that is also something to think about. With all that said, though, these two parts of the assignment this week are one after another. They're both essentially pointing to the same idea. If you understand your brand voice and your narrative that you're going to work through, you're ultimately going to be able to brainstorm these ideas. And so these are two halves of a whole. With that said, I am excited to see what everybody brings forth. And if you have any questions at all, or if you want to just talk about branding, I can, as the old adage goes, right? I can do this all day long. It's such a fascinating thing, and ultimately what's great about branding is we're always learning more, because there's always change and growth with the customer base, and because it's so closely related to art and the practice of putting art into motion. We're constantly learning more, because the way we produce and the concepts grow and change over time as well. So if you want to reach out, again, dmasters@roguecc.edu, and I would be happy to set up even a Zoom call with you all. So thank you so much, and I will see you guys and talk to you soon.